Okay.
We need a second? We're live. That's Jane.
Sandy, I'm recusing myself from the repairs to Green Cookus because I know
Yeah, that would be wise.
I'll just say,
Just remove it, and then, you know what I'm saying?
why can't I just recuse?
But then you're gonna recuse from it all. It's in the,
Oh, okay.
you know what I'm saying? Okay. Hello, good evening. It's now 7:01. Requirements of the Sunshine Law have been met. This meeting was advertised in the Burlington County Times on January the 7th, 2024. Electronic notice was given to the NJAC 5:39-1.5. We will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence. Roll call.
Committeewoman Berkeley.
Present.
Committeeman Carr.
Present.
Committeewoman Mungo. Committeewoman Wright. Mayor Henley.
Present.
Also present, Township Solicitor, Township Administrator Clerk, Assistant Township Administrator, Police Chief, Fire EMS Chief.
Approval of minutes, July 9th, 2024, regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion? So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. In the minutes when the mayor was talking about the trash collection that we were going to consider, he talked a lot about the pros and cons, and he talked about that what we were doing now was more expensive than the arm and things. And I realized the information that we got from the administrator said to the contrary, and I read those numbers, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to criticize, but I had to put out the right information. And the minutes completely ignored what I said. It just said Ms. Berkeley was concerned with the cost of collection that were present in this committee. And I had read them, and to prove that the lowest that we had was for what we were doing now. And even Karen Thompson noticed that because she said about the proposals, since the committee doesn't seem that they are on the same page with the numbers. So I don't know why what I say is constantly changed and ignored, but I'm getting tired of it. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything to say about the minutes? Jamie, you ready?
Yes.
What we're doing is we already did the motion, we're voting on the minutes for, yes.
Just making a note, Committeewoman Mungo is here, present.
Present. Thank you.
So Committeewoman Berkeley, what did you want us to change, or is there a suggestion that you
What
want?
I want to change, I'm just going to vote no.
Well, that's not true.
Roll call?
Berkeley.
No.
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
July 9th, 2024, executive session minutes. Do we have a motion?
3-0.
3-1, sorry.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So move.
Make a motion for the executive session minutes.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Department reports. We have construction, fire EMS, police, public works, and the courts. We will now open to public comment on agenda items only. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comment only.
Anthony Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. In regard to Resolution 10624, it's unclear whether are we sticking with the same style where we're using our current bins, or is it the new bins and automated pickup? I couldn't tell from the ordinance. Also, if we're not doing the automated, I think the bond was to purchase, so I guess that money just rolls back into the bond, unused.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll answer the question afterwards, I promise.
Yeah.
With no other comments? Sorry, Chris.
Chris Hamilton, 16 St. Andrews Court. I have quite a bit of problems with Resolution 11424. In reading it, we are agreeing to hire laborers from another union that's not the union that represents our DPW workers now, correct? And in here, we're saying the laborers are referred by the union, so we're not vetting these people at all. They're coming from the union. But what's more disturbing about this is both parties acknowledge that the number of workers required and the length of time for which they may be required is indefinite. That's said twice, that it's indefinite. That's a blank check. I don't know how we can write a blank check. The terms that we're agreeing to are from a contract that was negotiated by the local 172 and construction contractors. So we're agreeing to a contract that we had no part in negotiating. Also, one of the paragraphs, and this may just be an oversight here, but superintendent of the Department of Public Works or the designee of the township may direct how many employees, how many temps we bring in. Then in the same paragraph, superintendent or his designees. So who is it that actually gets to decide when we bring in these employees? And then finally, to add to the blank check, this never expires. Unless there's a vote, but it rolls over if there's no vote, which seems to me it's a way of hiding this agreement and allowing it to pass and allowing us to issue that blank check for an infinite amount of time. This just seems like horrible stewardship of this town's money.
Thank you.
With no other public comments? All in favor to close?
Yes.
Dates to, wrong page. Ordinances, second reading, open for public comment. 10-24, an ordinance of the Township of West Hampton amending the West Hampton Code, Chapter 209, entitled Storm Water Control. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's open for public comment.
So, Mayor, if I can make some comments?
Certainly.
So, when this was first proposed on first reading, first of all, there were some omissions in the text that was provided, specifically in Article 10, the tree ordinance, which will necessitate some amendments by the council in order to reintroduce. There was also some questions, concerns that were raised by Ms. Berkeley, and I have answers for those.
Hold on 1 second, Bob. Can everyone hear him?
All right.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry. So first of all, there were some omissions with the proposed ordinance. There was blanks in the tree ordinance regarding fees and as well as the list of approved species of trees. So we've obtained some recommendations by our planner and the landscape architects that work with CME and prepare to present those to the committee tonight to amend the ordinance, reintroduce it, and then hold a public hearing and adoption at the next meeting. Before that, I wanted to address some questions that were raised by Ms. Berkeley. Specifically, she questioned whether this was this ordinance was required by the DEP. Subsequent communications, there was a FAQ where it appears to say that stormwater management rules only apply to major developments. Those FAQs were addressing the stormwater management rules under NJAC 7:8. Those are more in the development of properties as opposed to property maintenance and soil conservation. This ordinance, Article 10 with the tree ordinance as well as the pet waste, wildlife feeding, litter control, all those are required under the township's MS4 permitting, which is covered under NJAC 7:14-A, and it is required. The substance of the ordinance this is consistent with the model ordinance, and the model ordinance are the minimums. There are a few things which the township does have the ability to have some discretion in, and those are specifically the things that we've received recommendations from the landscape architect for the township. Ms. Berkeley also asked how it is applicable to the residents and with some concerns with it being onerous. I'd like to point out some exemptions that are under section 209-46. First is that any residential property can remove up to 4 trees per acre every 5 years without being required to get a permit and approval for. That only applies to trees that are less than 33 inches in diameter. Any tree that's greater than 33 inches in diameter would need an approval unless it falls under another exemption. The other key exemption is exemption G, which is hazardous trees. And hazardous trees are defined under the ordinance quite broadly to include any tree that is has an infection or disease or insect infestation, is dead or dying, obstructs the view of traffic signs, free passage of pedestrians or vehicles, where pruning attempts have not been effective, causing obvious damage to structures such as buildings, foundations, sidewalks, etc., is determined to be a threat to public health, safety, and or welfare by certified arborist or licensed tree expert. One of the key provisions of the exemption and the discretion that's up to the committee is how the exemptions are approved. The model ordinance allows a heightened standard where somebody seeking an exemption would have to have an opinion of a licensed tree expert and arborist. What we recommend is a lower standard where an exemption can be proven simply by submitting a narrative and pictures. The last part that was blank was a list of permitted trees. What the landscape architects with CME have recommended is a list of prohibited species, which are non-native species, and they've provided that in a draft. The other amendment that would be necessary is what the fee for the application is. East Hampton specifically has an application fee of $50 to $75. I think that is consistent with other towns in the area. So that would be my recommendation, to adopt a fee of $50 to $75. So that's all I had.
So if I have a rotten tree, I take a picture, I send it in, and I have to give you $75 to be able to take it down?
You're exempt from that, I believe.
That's not what he said. You're exempt.
I'm asking.
So I'm sorry, I didn't, if you have a rotten tree?
If I have a tree that you said, take a picture of it, instead of getting an arborist saying that it's a hazardous tree, I take a picture, I give it to you, do I have to pay $50 to $75?
No, my understanding is no, that an exemption would not be, you would have to file an application for that as long as it's a residential property and it's you've not removed more than 4 trees in a 5-year period per acre of land.
What about the FAC frequently asked questions that I sent you that said single-family homes on single-family lots are not applicable to?
So that was related to the stormwater management under NJAC 7:8. That is the ordinance that was adopted 2 meetings ago, and it only applies to major developments, and it really applies to just new construction, and not to single-family lots. It's subdivision and soil conservation efforts through that. These ordinances are governed under a different section of the administrative code, and there's a separate FAQs. It's a bit confusing because they call them stormwater management ordinances all over the place, and the FAQs that you found, I don't think were very clear.
Who in the township is going to come out and check someone's tree to say it's okay to cut it down?
I don't know that. That'd be the administration would come up with who would fall under the responsibility. I would think it'd be proper for property maintenance or construction office.
Well, I understand, not happy, but I am not I do not want to have people pay $50 to $75 to chop down a tree because they want to put a shed in the place. I just don't think that's right. We pay enough taxes. I'm not looking forward to my tax bill coming out. That's a lot of money for someone to come by, drive by my house and say, yeah, you can take it down. So,
Question, you said that they can cut down 4 to 5 trees without any fee in a 5-year radius, correct?
Correct. Per acre.
Free. So I think that one of the things that it's, right, like one of the things you hear people say all the time when you're throwing away paper is that we want to kind of protect our trees. So if someone's going to cut down 5 trees that don't have any illness in more than 5 years, I think that deserves to somebody to come check and see what's going on. Because we don't want to just kill trees to kill trees.
I just don't like that amount of money.
So,
Fair enough.
and also it's not every tree. It is trees that have a DBH, I forget what that stands for, but it's the diameter of the tree at 4 to 4.5 feet high. If it's a street tree, then it's 2.5 inches, which is about the width of your cell phone. If it's a tree that is not at the street, then it's 6 inches, which is about the length of your cell phone. So this is only mature, healthy trees. Smaller trees, brush, those are things that can be cut down without any kind of permitting.
Okay, thank you.
And I will say, if I may, it's open comment anyway, but in Spring Meadows, there were a lot of people in the beginning had trees in the front of their house, and those tree roots grew toward the house. So now you see most of those trees are gone. That's also something that we would not charge for. It's a danger to the property, right? So I think there's a lot of ways that this can be managed, and I do agree with you that we have to make sure that our administration wants to make sure that the person who's managing it, that we do go out and we do take a look at the trees and make sure that the trees that someone's cutting down is the right way to do it. But I don't know that I've seen that much change. Like, we have some pretty large, beautiful trees that took some time to grow. And in fact, you know very well that when we went to the village over there and PSE&G was cutting down trees, there was a bunch of people who fought to save the trees, right? So I think it's just about us being responsible, and in our administration being responsible. That's just my 2 cents. Does anyone in the public have anything that they'd like to say? No. Mr. Harper.
That's probably true.
Some of the trees in my yard are over 100 feet tall. I've been living here for 50 years. I'm telling you right now to your face, I'm cutting some of them down soon. Whoever came up with this, first of all, leave them mind your own business, is how I feel. The government of this country, whether it's state, local, the president, the vice president, I don't care about none of that. You know, you're always telling somebody else how to run the freaking business. And the thing that gets me is, the people that sit down and make these laws up, excuse me, ain't got a pot to fish in. And willing to throw it out. But then they still want to come out and tell somebody else what to do. Now you go around and look at my house. Some of them trees are 100 feet. And I'm telling you now, I'm cutting away from my house before a hurricane comes and tears my house up. So you do what you gotta do, but I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And I'm not directing at you.
I know.
Who made this law? The state did?
DEP.
Yeah, well, here we go. We got some little clerk somewhere sitting up there in this crummy little office, ain't got nothing else better to do than come around screwing with people.
So, Mr. Harper, I would ask this. Would you cut down more than 5 trees?
Listen, I have no idea.
Just question.
Maybe.
Yes.
I ain't tearing my house up.
Fair
I can
enough.
tell you that.
And I think that that's what the law prevents. It's not going to let you, if it's a danger to your home, you're more than welcome to cut it.
Because I'm just sick and tired of the government, whether it's state, local, or federal, coming around telling people what to do all the time with their own stuff. I mean, I could see if you was out there throwing garbage in the street. Common sense tells you can't do that. But you know, it's just getting to be overbearing. People got jobs, they got kids, they got to take care of. We got more important things to do than sit and worry about some stupid ordinance about some trees, man. You know, it's just crazy. Now, you may think I'm crazy, but I'm just telling you how I feel.
Now, you know I'm going to call you crazy.
Well, I don't know what y'all might think, but I'm just telling you.
You don't know what I think?
I'm just telling you how I feel.
I heard.
See? Because I don't like it one little bit. I moved in that house around there. Just let me tell you this. Ronald Reagan was the president of this country, and I was paying 16% interest on my house. I refinanced that house 3 times. It's paid off. It's been paid off now a long time. I went through hell. Ain't nobody come around and give me nothing, man. But yet still, these crummy little politicians can send some letter to your house telling you what you got to do with your property, and they ain't put a dime in it. I mean, I understand you can't break the laws, but some of these laws they come out with are just plain ridiculous, man. I mean, I can see the development, you know what, but it just ain't right. And as far as I'm concerned, this country's going to the dog, man. It's too many stupid rules. You know, what are you gonna do? But I'm just saying to you, when you see me cutting, better send a fireman around there, because I ain't having one of them trees tearing my house down. And, you know, I was living here before any of y'all was probably even born. And that's another thing, okay? No offense to you. All y'all young people come up. I know things change, but sometimes it just seems like you ain't got no respect for nobody else. Just do what they want to do. Every day it's the same thing. Just do what they want to do. Tell women how to take care of their health care. They can't do that right. Then you're going to come around with some stupid stuff like trees. I mean, it's just one thing to the next. Where's it going to stop? I'm not pointing you out as an individual. I'm talking about the government in this friggin' country. And I don't care if it's the Republicans or Democrats. They are so. Because they ain't here to protect nobody, man. It's just another gimmick to make money from somebody. And that's the way I see it. It's just another gimmick so the state can make some money off of some innocent people. So, I didn't say what I had to say. Keep these binoculars out. I start cutting. See you later.
I see Mr. Harper. You gotta come to the mic. It's not.
Gary Barbarian, 138 Winstead. So I actually haven't read the tree ordinance. It's one of the few ordinances that I haven't read. So I guess my comment is, for those of you that are more expert on it, is there any kind of sort of intersection of that ordinance with the PSE&G vegetation management program? Because I do think that that's important, because, you know, you can have PSE&G come out there through their contractor and basically, you know, if a tree, it's on your land, but it crosses the threshold over and interacts with the power lines, they're going to make the cuts. So potentially, and you've seen the way they cut those trees sometimes, right? So at some point, it might make sense just to timber the whole tree. So I don't know, does the ordinance have anything that says that the cost can be shared by PSE&G and the homeowner, if it makes better sense to, instead of sort of pruning the tree, to just timber it? Do we know?
What are we talking about, the village?
No, I'm talking about just anywhere in the township where there's power lines and there's branches that might potentially impact the power lines.
No, PSE&G, from our last situation over there at PSC&G, do you want to elaborate? You were there, Ms. Berkeley?
It wasn't PSC&G.
I'm talking about the village.
Right.
Yeah.
Cut them to the ground. It was another tree service. But PSC&G told us that they only cut 10 feet from the wires. So if a tree is 30 feet high, and the wires are pretty high,
Yeah.
they only cut back 10 feet. So there's no need to cut the whole tree down.
But I've seen that some of the branches are really, it's very asymmetrical after they're done with their cuts. And I'm saying for one or two branches that they don't touch, you really have an asymmetrical tree, and it just may make better sense aesthetically just to timber the whole tree versus...
I don't
versus
disagree,
that
but PSC&G doesn't really do that. In fact, I believe not to down PSC&G at all, but they have what people might say is a history of where they just cut the tree and then they'll cut the tree and just leave it how it is. Like, they won't groom it, they won't do anything. And what's tough is, like, it's not our immediate neighborhoods, but some areas they have trees that are grown on the sidewalk, right? And then those trees are really township property, so then you kind of leave it up to, there's some townships that have people who call continuously once PSC&G does that, because they want you to now come out and fix the tree, which, it causes an issue in itself. So from what I've seen and from neighboring areas, PSC&G will cut what Committeewoman Berkeley said, just the minimum amount, and leave it. They're unrelated, the two. The DEP and PSC&G.
I have a different opinion, but I hear what you're saying. My comment on that is that it's trees that are on residents' land. For example, in my development, abutting Springside, those branches have been pruned. When you look at the tree, the shape of the tree is now very asymmetrical. And in some instances, there may only be 3 or 4 viable branches left. And what I'm saying at that point is, well, kind of may make better sense just to timber the whole tree. Now who has to bear the cost of that? It's kind of then sort of dumped back onto the homeowner at that point. I'm just saying, we all want proper vegetation management. We want conservation. I'm just wondering, does the ordinance speak to potentially shifting some of the cost to, that sort of environment where they're interacting for that purpose, for vegetation management? I don't know. I haven't read the ordinance, so that's what I'm just asking.
So the position, what we ran into in Rancocas Village when they trimmed those trees and seemed somewhat excessive, the position they took is that we're not subject to the township regulation because they're regulated by the DPU, and the purpose of their trimming was to protect the wires. And that's a pretty solid position that PSC&G has taken with that. But they also have listened to constituent concerns in the past in other areas, and it's something that the township, the mayor can address with PSC&G, basically ask nicely. This ordinance couldn't regulate them doing that.
Or maybe an alternative, because Nancy kind of brought it up, is the cost mitigation. If that is the factor causing a homeowner to want to timber a tree, because they set that into motion, maybe the township could appreciate that and possibly offer some sort of a discount on the permitting cost, the fees, etc. I'm just trying to come up with a solution here, just to be fair to everybody. And then... Okay. And just the other issue regarding the tree. So in communities like Pine where I'm deed restricted, right? So the deed restriction runs with the land and actually imposes a duty on the homeowners to, quote, maintain the trees, etc., right? So I guess my question is, what's going to supersede here? The deed restrictions in the development or the ordinance? So what do we do in that situation? We want to...
Let me ask you a question. If you know your market, how many trees do you have on your property?
On my land, I have 4.
So you could never reach 5.
I'm sorry?
I had 2 trees. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had a tree in the front, a tree on the side. So for most people, the people who have real concern when I look at this are like people who live in our woods, because they have a bunch of trees, right? Like, they're the ones that are really a concern. But for Torrensfield, for Spring Meadows, we don't really have a bunch of trees. Like, we'll never reach 5 trees. So for us, it doesn't really apply. For the people who would apply for, yes. Like, Irick Woods, Right, they can, I mean, but still, to cut 5 trees in 5 years is a lot, but somebody might do it. Right, like, I don't put it on the record.
I'm
But-
just making the observation just so everybody
No,
has an
fair enough.
opportunity to, engage in good neighborliness and
Fair enough.
be peaceful.
In Deerwood, if somebody here from Deerwood, how many trees you
Deconstruction is an
had?
issue, right? So, that's my comment.
In Deerwood, you got no trees, you got 2 trees on your property. You,
I have one more question.
yeah.
Paperwork got to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. You get paperwork from the township,
It's on the agenda.
as far as that ordinance goes.
It's on the agenda.
It's, assuming that there's going to be an amendment tonight and it's reintroduced, you could get a copy. A copy will be available through the clerk's office by Friday.
Okay, my other question is, big trees like that I have, that hang over the top of the house, can you trim them back if you don't cut them?
Yes, they're
Yeah.
into the house.
I'm just asking the question.
No, it's okay.
I don't want you coming out and messing with me. That's what I'm telling you.
My feelings are strong, Mr. Harper.
That's what I'm allowed to do on my income, that's why I want to leave some.
Nah, I hear
I don't need no mess.
Bob, this isn't going to be ready by Friday if he comes on Friday and wants a copy.
Yeah, it'll be ready.
With the changes
Correct, yes.
that we haven't approved?
Yes, assuming there's amendments tonight, then we already have the recommendations of the planner are already in a draft document. If there's any changes to that, they were just given to us today, and those are the ones that I stated. I can make those changes tomorrow. The clerk's office can finalize them, have it ready by Friday.
I didn't see it on my Dropbox. Was it on there?
No, it was not. We got them, I forget when it was late this morning. And then they were reviewed by other staff.
So
So the changes are,
we're approving it basically by title tonight.
we're gonna reintroduce it, we're not approving.
reintroducing the sections from what was introduced before that would require amendment are section 2009-45 for the fee. 209-45 for the fee, 209-46, which is exemptions and how exemptions are approved, and then Appendix A, which would be a list of prohibited species instead of a list of required species.
And what is the fee?
That's for the council, the committee to make an amendment of what the fee is. Neighboring towns, East Hampton has $50 to $75.
So we're going to discuss that now and make that
Correct.
decision. Okay.
And then you'd have to propose, somebody would have to make a motion to amend.
I would ask that we make it $50. It depends on what everybody else wants. Someone else wanna do 800 or
25.
20? That's not an option, Nancy. Go ahead, Bob.
So, Robert
30.
Thorpe, 222 Olive Street, Rancocas. So listen to Mr. Harper and a whole lot of things. I had massive trees on my property. So I'm not quite sure, I don't quite understand where the fee comes into play. As in, you mentioned a 33-inch diameter tree. Is it at that point the fee goes into play? Or are you talking about at tree 6? What is the fee and why?
So the fee is for the township to process the paperwork, approve, review it, maybe go out there and look at the tree, make sure that the width is what it says it is, and to determine what replacement would be necessary. And essentially, this only applies to healthy trees that are not risking any of the structures on your property. So if it's damaging sidewalk, if it's damaging your foundation, that would be a hazardous tree that could be removed, would not have to be replaced. If you have a healthy tree that you want to remove to build a addition on your house that is more than 6 inches in diameter at 4 feet high, you would need to replace that with a comparable tree. And that's not replacing it with, there's a chart actually that's in the ordinance of what the replacement tree would have to be. I forget if it's,
Is that after the 4 free ones? For every tree, none one?
no, that would be after the four free ones.
Okay, so you can cut down 4 trees. If you cut down a 5th one, you have to replace it.
Okay?
In 5 years per acre.
Healthy.
So,
For a healthy tree.
Healthy,
For healthy
no
trees.
reason
Yes.
to
Right.
damage your house or property.
so,
Right.
what I'd like to see is the minimum, okay? As in, whatever we're required to do by the state of New Jersey, and that's it.
And that's what this,
Everything else should be stripped out of this thing. And as for fees, we pay too much in taxes now,
We do?
okay? Yes, we do, okay? We may have a decent tax rate, we're still paying too much in taxes. And this is another fee on top, okay? So make it a $5 fee, okay? We're already paying everybody in this building, okay? We're expecting them to do their jobs, okay? Now you're laying on something onto us. $50 doesn't need to be $50, okay? Make it less, okay? I don't care about East Hampton, okay? It means nothing to me, okay? I'm just tired of being nickel and dimed.
Yep.
And I would like to see it much more reasonable. So I think $50 is too high. Thanks.
Move to West Hampton. We don't charge you to cut down trees.
Come on.
Maureen Smith, can you hear me? Maureen Smith Hartman, I was going to say Berkshire Hathaway. Not really that. 36 St. Andrews Court, West Hampton. Okay, I do have one question. Do you have to hire somebody that is a tree expert to know what's a healthy tree and what's not a healthy tree?
Good question.
That's not the amendment was to possibly get rid of that and just have a picture,
What?
just to prove that it's a not healthy tree.
Who
Yeah.
would make that decision, though? Is Public Works? I mean, who's going to be the tree police? That's what I want to know.
I think that's
Something I should
administrative.
think about.
That's, yeah, that's the
When I want to charge
administrative.
somebody money, I think you better have somebody that's an expert. And I don't think we should have to have an expert on trees, to tell you the truth. That's all I have to say. For right now. I do have something else to say.
It's obviously up to the committee. I think that so few residents would have to pay a fee for this to begin with. I don't see it impacting many residents at all. As far as a healthy tree, and 5 trees per
5 trees every 5 years
5 years.
per acre.
I don't know that a fee matters one way or another. You put $50 on it, it's for how many residents and how many years are we charging $50 for? I don't see it being an impact for many residents at all.
So does that scale? So if someone has a quarter-acre lot, are they limited in the trees?
I did not see any guidance on that, and in the frequently asked questions, it just routinely referenced 4 trees per acre for 5 years. So I think it could be interpreted for any single-family home as the 4 trees.
I mean, Anthony Getz, 109 West Maple Tree. I mean, Mr. Stewart recommended $5. Nothing stops the committee from reevaluating in a year or 2 years and say, well, it's cost our department too much, the money's not working out, let's raise it. It's a different story to come out with 50 or 75, and that money's sitting there, you're not going to want to decrease it. Go small, bring it up, if the numbers and everything warrant it.
What's the numbers between 50 and 75, right?
It could be anything, though.
That's just a suggestion based on other towns. There's nothing in the model ordinance, nothing in the state statutes that sets the fee. That's totally up to the discretion of the town.
Chris, when you talked to East Hampton, did you just look at their ordinance, or did you speak with someone over there? Okay.
And I can only speak on East Hampton. My parents live in a wooded lot in Smithville, near Smithville, and, I mean, when there's storms and they're removing trees all the time, but they're damaged trees. Like, for me to say that we've ever, in the 40 years that we've been there, ever removed a tree that was healthy for just really no reason, it's never happened. So I'm just looking at this like it's just not, and they're on an 1.5 acre lot, all wooded trees.
Chris, maybe you can help me out. Say somebody's getting a shed, right? And Ray has to go out to examine the property. How much does he charge? Because you might know, what's the township charge, like when the construction office goes out to someone's property?
Yeah. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, permits are a percentage of the construction cost, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Basically, you're judging how big of a project it's going to be to inspect by the cost of that project.
So I think that whatever the fee is that the committee can decide to do, what I'm saying is that for all the fees that are charged in the township, I think that's one of the lowest ones, if I'm not mistaken. For any fee that the township charges to do something, and the dog license is what, $10 or... And again, I agree with Jamie, I don't know, to me, it could be free, because I don't think that, but the problem is gonna be, because I've seen this before, someone goes and cuts down 10 trees, and someone comes in here and they are irate that
Here's where
someone cut down
I
10
see
trees.
it being fair. If somebody cuts down 10 trees, there's no fee, and they don't replace it with 10 healthy trees,
Correct.
then we can go out to the property and say, you need to pay, you're not planting the 10 new healthy trees that you just cut down. Like, that then seems
Right.
more of like a fee, a penalty, whatever. But to cut them down, I don't see unless we start to see it being abused, I don't see it being a reason.
And actually, I hear from Trenton that in October, they want to repeal this altogether, because it's too hard to keep track and too hard to,
I mean, that's the other thing. How many homeowners are just going to cut trees without even knowing, besides the 30 that are here, that even know this exists? And they're
I've been here
not gonna tell
22
us
years.
anyway.
I've
So-
never seen nobody cut down a bunch of trees at one time. Now, again, Irish Woods could be different, so respect to that, but
But it's not like we're out
All the other-
monitoring all the trees
yeah.
cut down in the town. I
and that's
just
the
don't
other
think
thing.
it's like
Who's
who's gonna-
monitoring that?
Yeah.
Like, we spent 45 minutes talking about this. I don't even know who's monitoring that.
It's just not, it doesn't make
Yeah, go ahead, Terrence.
Terrence Brown, 9 Pine Tree Drive. My question would be, my comment, I guess, is, like, I mean, I stand here and so many of my trees are unhealthy. Now, I've gotten, people to come out and give me quotes on how to, try to make those, and it's very expensive. You're talking about, that $400 or $500, looking at per tree to inject it and things like that. And I have rows of trees that are bad. But, we kind of want them to stay because of it kind of blocks shade and sight and give privacy. But they're already bad. And my issue would be is that the continued like branches and limbs that are falling in my neighborhood while people are walking around. So I have to make, the call sometimes to say, hey, do I cut this tree now because it's falling every time a wind comes through, branches are falling, people having to step over it on the sidewalk, or do I let it stay until the whole tree fall over? And, work, life, sometimes you're not able to make that decision before that tree falls. So I think that, for people like me who, basically land is majority of sand and clay, the trees, they don't bear good lives there,
But Terrence, unhealthy trees you can cut. We're talking about, I think that with this, what they put in places, they're trying to put in places healthy trees. You can't cut more than 5 or 4 and 5 years. Unhealthy trees or something that's going to damage your property, you can cut. I would offer my help, but I'm not much help with that. But I'm saying, like, You can cut unhealthy trees or trees that are going to damage your property as much as you want, cut away. What they're saying is healthy trees. And you bring up a good point. Devil's advocate. If someone would pay $500 a tree to cut down 5 healthy trees, that's what Terrence gave me.
He said to treat it.
We saying that's to make it
Oh,
healthy.
treat it. How much it cost to cut down a tree?
Oh, it varies.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Great, thanks. I appreciate that, Mr. Harper. If somebody would cut down 5 trees at $10,000, at $2,000 each, that's 10 grand, right?
They paid their,
If they wouldn't, they didn't pay us.
no, they paid their,
Right, because they wouldn't pay $50 to have somebody come out and make sure the tree is worth cutting down if they cut down their 6th healthy tree. Whatever everybody else wants to do, I don't care if it's $5, I don't care if it's $50, doesn't matter. I don't have any trees.
I don't think there's any fee. I do. It's one of those things we see how it's used.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They eat oak trees, those big oak trees. You come on my house, I'll show you.
Okay.
Them trees are right there,
But Mr. Harper, that's an unhealthy tree. You can cut as many of those as you want.
but it takes a long time before the trees start showing. That's unhealthy. That those ants on inside, they eat the whole core of the tree out. That's how they do it. They eat the whole core of the tree out. Come on my house tomorrow.
Fair enough.
It's not that show you. They get inside and they eat you. It's thousands of them.
But I think that we're exercising the same point. Like, that's an unhealthy tree. Right? And you can cut as many, you can cut 20 of them down. Nobody's going to say
It
nothing.
look like, when you come out, if you come and look at them, they don't look like they're unhealthy trees. I'm telling you, I've been living there for a long time. How many trees I've cut down since I've been around here?
Don't say it on record. Not good.
I don't care about that. I'm just telling you.
I hear you. How many of you cut down since you lived there?
My neighbors are constantly worried about them storms coming up there.
Better yet, let me ask you this. Mr. Harper, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you cut down a tree?
You just told me not to cut it.
But what I'm saying is, ideally, right? Like, when's the last time you cut down a tree?
You just told me that.
No, I'm just joking, but when's the last time you cut down a tree? When's the last time you cut down a tree before that? I'm just asking, I'm just saying, like, I don't know that.
And you can't really tell. You go around there, sit there in a chair, and watch those ants going back and forth all day long, eating those trees out, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. My next door neighbor got 3 trees on his yard right now, and it's dead because the ants ate them up. Now you're talking about, like I told you, he's talking. A big tree like that in today's market, you're talking about $2,500 that's on that way down there. I'm telling you, it ain't no down on pieces of gritty. I mean, it's a lot of money. And I'm just telling you, a tree that's in front of your house, if I gotta put out all the money to save my house, I'll do that. But because I've lived there a long time, I know what those ants do to those trees. You ride down through our woods all you want. He's gonna see them. Don't go out there and see them trees up, man. They look like they're big, healthy oak trees, but they ain't what you think. It takes a period of time, and they eat the core right out of it. And then she knows what comes up and blows them down. That's how it This is how it works.
I get it.
I'm not mad at you, I'm just telling you how it works.
I know you're not mad at me.
So, Bob, one of the examples you gave earlier was if the tree was damaging your principal structure, does that also apply to accessory structures as well? Shed, pool, fence?
Under the definition, it just says is causing obvious damage to structures such as building, foundations, sidewalks, etc. It doesn't limit it to principal structure. So if it was a shed, a pool, a patio, another structure, then it could be
It would be
considered a
covered.
hazardous tree. What's
what is the committee's thought on the fee? And what is Chris's outlook
Yeah, Chris, what do you think about the fee?
on number of applications that we're actually using this?
How much time does it take for you to go, if it were you, right? How much time does it take for you to go out, examine the tree, to make sure the tree? How long, it's gonna take you longer?
3 minutes.
How long?
Out of 3,000 homes, how many applications do you expect of this ordinance?
A year?
After 4 trees cut down?
Chris, so would you go out and do the tree, or would somebody else go out and do the tree? Like, who does the tree?
That decision hasn't been made yet.
Wendy, who would you have go out and do the tree? Do you know? Would it be the head would it be the department head, or would it be? Yes, for somebody to cut it down.
Well, it just becomes part of their job. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see,
Exactly.
even if they have to go visit a home once a month, like, we don't need to necessarily pay them extra to do that. It's
Right.
part of it. Now, if there's paperwork, I don't know, like,
So what I did was I just looked at what your salary was, divided it by the amount of years, the hours, the time that it would take you. It's like, if it takes you 3 minutes or 4 minutes, it's about $8. So, you guys, what do you want to do?
I would just say start with no fee and just see where we are with applications and revisit it
I agree.
at another time.
Fair enough.
Okay.
No fee,
Well-
right?
I say no fee. I don't see what the,
Is there any more discussion on this, or can I call a question?
I have nothing. I have no trees.
Well, I'd like the motion for 10-24, ordinance 10-2024, to amend section 209-45, a fee of $0.
second.
209-46, proof to require only pictures and a narrative. Appendix A, from a list of approved trees to a comprehensive list of prohibited trees. I'd like to add an amendment that this ordinance be reexamined in 1 year from its date of passage.
Fair enough.
Second.
Roll call.
Barkley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Payment of vouchers.
So, Mayor, if I may, just for process-wise, the amended ordinance will be reintroduced, publication of it will be renoticed, and the public hearing will be held on first meeting in September, at which time there'll be a public hearing on it, and it'll be put for a vote for adoption.
Okay. 105-24, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through 8/13/2024. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Berkeley.
Second, Mungo.
Any discussion?
I have a question. Who are we advertising a position for? It's the first thing in the budget. It was $115 to advertise for a position.
I think it's just in general.
You're talking about the bill list, not the budget?
The bill list.
Okay, it probably was the deputy court administrator position.
The court administrator position?
Deputy court administrator.
Oh, deputy court, okay. Thank you.
Roll call.
Barkley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
106-24, resolution awarding 2025 trash contract. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion for 106-24.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. What does it mean that container lifts included? in the contract for every year, it says container lifts included.
It means that the vendor has the option to send the one-armed truck around if needed.
Okay, but we're not being required to do the one arm. Okay, thank you.
I know that someone asked about Mr. Getzley. They were basically keeping the same service.
Yes.
So use your current bins, put out what you can on the curb.
It's the same purpose. Discussion. When we're talking about the trash, there was kind of a couple different things to look at. Keeping it the same, right? So here's the issue, and this is just a FYI that we're looking at. In the future, those trucks are going to be obsolete, right? So as time goes on, right now, these are obsolete, you're kind of forced to go the other way, which means that you kind of run into a situation where you could end up paying more later down the line. So that was something to think about through the whole process. Secondly, the one-armed, one person in the truck, it's been said up here that people believe it to be better to have two people in a truck. That's not accurate. There's been more injury and more dismemberment with two people in a truck in the back of the truck, not being seen, et cetera, versus the one person on the truck who stays inside the truck and who's not outside. So those are kind of the things that you look at. Secondly, I know that we talked about the amount of trash that you can put out at one time. So I was lucky enough to take a look at our landfills right down the street. And we're on the second landfill that now they're looking for a third landfill to be able to have a place to put our trash. That is a bit of a concern to where the trash is gonna go. So these, I think, are all things that when we're making this choice, we have to keep in mind, going forward. I mean, this is what the residents want, but the residents have to understand, going forward, these are the things that are going to come into play. It's going to come into play that these trucks may be obsolete, so we may end up paying more later than we could have paid now. And that's fair enough, but just remember that part of it. And also, they said that most people are paying more money for the trash because of where you have to put the trash at, right? Like, again, the landfill is in the sky. So I do think this is a good choice for us because that's what the people want. But I also think, pragmatically, that we're going to pay later on down the line. So it's like one of those things that you get when microwave ovens came out, do you get the microwave oven early or do you get it like after everybody else has it? I mean, or supply and demand, that's microwave oven is probably a bad choice to use, but that's what we're looking at more or less. So with that being said, roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Consent agenda resolution. No consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda.
I would like to remove A, C, and H. A is 10724, C is 10924, and H is 11424.
Make a motion for B, D, and F through I.
Second, any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley.
Yes?
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Make a motion for 107-24. Resolution approving purchase from a state contract vendor for police SUV Interceptor.
Second.
Mayor, besides being a needy of the fire department to have a safe truck for the fire chief, what we also found out is because it's a new truck, that truck could be used for the police department. It just would have to be retrofitted for the police department.
I don't know what we're talking about. Bring that back.
A is to buy 2 police SUVs Interceptors. Okay? I wrote to both chiefs and asked them, and especially Chief Brian, if he needed to, because one of the police, the fire SUV Interceptor for the fire department was going to be given away when we get the new truck that's more safe for a fire chief. So I don't know if we need to buy 2 new ones, since we are getting one from the fire department and we just need to retrofit it. Could we buy 1 new one and then use the one from the fire company, which is only 1 or 2 years old, for that second one? And neither of the chiefs are here when I emailed them. You know what I'm talking about?
I have an idea what you're talking about. You're talking about the pickup truck that the fire chief is getting, and then the car that the fire chief has, giving that to the police chief.
Right. And
right?
that the fire chief said he would do.
But the Interceptors are different. The fire chief and the police chief trucks are like the Tahoes. They're the bigger trucks. They're not the Interceptors.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
I would say the police Interceptors,
They're smaller.
They're smaller. Like, they're the ones that the police are riding around in.
Right.
None of them are riding in the big Tahoes.
But we're still going to give that one from the fire department to the police. If it's bigger than what they use, they can use it somehow. But to have,
So typically, a Interceptor has other modifications to it, including a reinforced undercarriage.
right, and that's what I
It
said, we
has-
had to pay the extra to retrofit it for the police force, instead of buying a new one and then retrofitting it.
So I'll tell you what I would suggest. I would suggest that one of those cars go to the rec program, only because the rec program used to have a van that they would use. Now they use the Explorer, and I've been told that they sometimes have trouble fitting everything that they need into the Explorer, that they needed more room for it. So I think that, in my opinion, but I don't make those decisions, it would be best fit to go to the rec department, but the Interceptors are what the cops are riding around in. They wouldn't ride around in a Tahoe. I might be able to beat the Tahoe if I get pulled over.
I'm just saying, this was presented to us, and one of the reasons why we agreed to buy a truck for the fire chief, because he said he was going to give his vehicle to the police department. And now we're not going to do that to save money. It seems like we need to be able to be very good with our money and not waste it. And you could probably buy something cheaper for the rec department if you really needed it. Maybe we could approve one and wait till we get the police chief in here and the fire chief in here to talk about that. I don't know why they didn't answer my emails, probably because they were very busy with
Probably.
last night. I don't think we need to buy 2 new ones.
Well, here's the other part, right? We talked about hiring more police officers, right? We talked about, and this is something that we talked about a lot of times. We talked about hiring more police officers than we currently have. We have the new development that went in over on Springside. So if we're going to continue to hire police officers as we planned and as we put into the budget, I don't see why we wouldn't need more Interceptors to do that. And the Interceptor and the big truck, they're not the same. You would have to look at them as Berkeley. They're not. One's like a Chevy Tahoe, and the other one's they're like Ford Explorers. So they're smaller, and that's kind of what all the police in the area, Willingboro Police, East Hampton Police, they all have the Interceptors. So that truck wouldn't be any good to them. I know that what we talked about doing, if we want to talk about that, we talked about taking the police chief's car, giving it to the fire chief's car, giving it to the police chief, and the police chief giving his car to the recreation department, and they may very well do that. I don't know what they're gonna do with it. But I know they can't be out there on the road chasing bad guys in the Tahoe. Well,
I would say there's several considerations in that too, sir, is that, number one, I've counted, I think, 4 police interceptors in that lot over there, and we've only gotten 2 in the past 2 years. The police interceptors generally see a 24-hour duty cycle. It goes to the safety of the officers and to the effectiveness of our police response to have vehicles that are working. I think is very important. And secondly, is that the time to order vehicles is now. Should we delay on this, it's very likely that our police department won't be able to get new vehicles until next year.
Because they have to prepare them, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, the funds are available for this, stated through our 2024 capital. If the chief is, I trust our chief, and if he's saying we need them, I'm going to say we need them, and I agree to go ahead with the purchase of the 2.
Roll call?
Berkeley.
Yes.
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Longo.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Motion to approve 109-24, resolution approving repairs to Rancobas Community Center.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor, I have to recuse myself because I'm friends with the construction person who's being hired.
Roll call?
Berkeley.
Recuse myself.
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henry.
Yes.
Longo.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0-1.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for 111-24E.
No, 114.
You said E or H?
H.
H.
Yeah, that's H out.
Oh, 114-24.
Yeah.
Resolution approving MOA for direct hire at 172.
We have a motion?
That was his
So moved.
motion.
Second?
Mungo.
Any discussion?
Yes, I will not repeat what Mr. Hamilton said, but I agree totally. It seems like there is not a set fee that they're going to charge. Every time they do a job somewhere else and they get a bigger fee, we have to match that. Who knows what that could be? They could get a job where they all of a sudden ended up with $50 more an hour, and now we're stuck paying that. They said that it's unlimited number of people, how long people, as long as it's still considered a temporary. The state considers a temporary worker anyone who works up to 8.5 months out of 12.
Question.
And
I'm sorry, my apologies.
I had talked to our director, and you said you thought it was mainly for doing the roads. But when I looked at this, it talked about construction and repairs, so I'm not sure what it's going to be used for. We have 12 people who work for our Department of Public Works. I don't see where we really need more people. I don't understand. And it seems like this is putting us into a spot where I don't know where we're going to get the money. This was not budgeted. And the big thing, and you're all going to hate me, but I don't care. This is Union 172. Union 172 was the union who volunteered to help Mr. Carr and the mayor put the basketball hoops up. And Mr. Carr used it for his campaign. Union 172 was all over the webpage when Mr. Carr was running for township committee, and Union 172 walked the streets with him handing out. So any union that's helping one of us get elected, we cannot turn around and hire them at who knows what hours, who knows how long, because it's a conflict of interest. It is unethical, it is illegal, and it is cronyism. And I'm tired of it. So I'm going to vote no, and anyone who votes yes agrees with the cronyism and is responsible for the unethical vote that would happen. We cannot approve this if it was Union 627, who had never had any work with us, that's fine. But this union constantly has helped one or more of our township committee members get elected, and I'm just upset. Thank you. Now you can say what you want, Mayor.
I think Odis will say most of it, but I believe this is for the construction that goes, we don't pay them. If I'm not mistaken, is that correct, Odie?
Yeah, we pay. They're our employees. We're hiring them as
Right,
temporary.
it's a temporary hire, but they do the construction part.
What construction?
This is a measure that will allow the Township of West Hampton to hire help for specific projects. For example, you like to complain about high prices to redo a street that costs $1 million for a vendor to do. There's a possibility that Chris may be able to get that project done for half by direct hiring these people. It's an indefinite amount of time, so they're not guaranteed a job here. It's just a tool. We don't have to use it, but it's there if Chris decides he wants to use it.
It says it's at the township's discretion.
And if I'm not mistaken, when we talk about the streets, there's a street over there that we didn't have direct hire, and the street had to be redone because it was done wrong. It wasn't done correctly, so they had to redo it. Now, what I will say...
For bid
Can I-
then? For every
Can I
job?
finish? I didn't interrupt.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No works. So the other part about it is that we should know that the unions do make sure they hire certain people or train certain people. So union employees, which our town is full of union employees that live here, they are guaranteed work in an environment where people aren't always guaranteed work. So this is an option for us to put those things in play as well as cutting costs. So it has nothing to do with the basketball court, has nothing to do with people knocking doors. It has more to do with protecting our residents and getting them the best service that they could possibly have from trained, skilled labor.
I disagree, because
Fair
there's
enough.
other unions in town. It just happens to be this union. And the question is then, will this union help this year with walking around handing out?
You gotta call and ask them. Nancy, you're running, you ask them.
What?
You ask them for help. I don't know what you gotta call and ask them.
For help?
Okay? Well,
I just think it's unethical. Maybe I'd like to hear from them, the
I also
attorney.
think it's unethical to yell at little kids at National Night Out.
okay, listen, let's move forward. So,
I asked the attorney's opinion. Is this a play to pay?
oh, what?
If you'd like to discuss, I can give my legal advice in closed session if you'd like.
Okay.
Roll call.
Berkeley.
No.
Carr.
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Mungo.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1. Sorry.
We will now open the meeting for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comment only.
Hey, Lori Hustis, 14 Canobie Drive. I just had something nice to say. I just wanted to thank the police department, he's not here right now, for having the Youth Police Academy in July. The children had a wonderful time and they learned so much. My grandson wants to be a police officer now. I mean, they're great. They were terrific with these kids, and I wanted to let you all know. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Preston McGivney, 210 Second Street, Rancocas. I apologize in advance, I don't speak well in public.
You're fine, sir. Take your time.
I've been a 31-year, my wife and I have been, and our son have been a 31-year resident of the village of Rancocas, and have always felt that the township put the safety and the welfare of residents in the forefront. I can't say that I feel that way recently. On January 4th, I sent a thing in, I don't know what you call it, on the website, that at the corner of Bridge Street and Second Street, a resident planted bushes on what I believe and have been told is county property, which is led to oversight of the township. those trees are at least 12 to 14 feet high. They're right at the road. And you cannot come to the corner of Second Street and see oncoming traffic from the right unless you pull out halfway into the lane. Part of that problem is there are very often there are cars parked on the other side of the bridge. And vehicles that come down from Main Street, who more often than not are trying to make the light, a really short light, and they come down very quickly, and you have to pull out, and they come into your lane, into the opposite lane than you should be, heading towards the traffic lights. My wife travels that way every morning, and there's been a number of times she's let me know how close it's been. And it's happened to me, and recently, I came out there and I looked left, started to pull out, and there were, as a kid coming on a bike, right in front of the bushes. And if he had been going any faster, or I had been going any quicker, I'd probably be in jail right now. I had contacted the township again in January. I didn't make a pain in the ass of myself, but I've called at least 5 or 6 times. One of the problems I have is that they have this thing that says, we'll call you back in 24 hours. The last message I left was 3 weeks ago for the public works. I'm still waiting for the return call. The fire chief has looked at it in his oversized truck, and he said he can't see out. He told me that something was going to be done in 10 days. That was about 3 months ago. They've gone out to this resident. They kicked, I believe the fire chief went and somebody, I think from the public works went, I'm not 100% sure, but they were told to leave her property. And now the most recent I've heard is that it's in the hands of you. I don't know if you're aware of that, but this has been going around. And I apologize again. I take the kind of, but the problem is, she put them in, and it does not conform to the line of sight triangle. I don't know, but you have to have a certain vision coming to an intersection that you can see the oncoming intersection, and you can't see squat. And again, I was told by the county that it is on county property, but it's that is the responsibility then of the township. And the only way to fix it, the trees have to go. At least 4 to 5 of the trees have to go. Because you literally... We just got done saying how many times you're going to cut down 5 trees. Why didn't you say something earlier? Well, they cut down 4 if you want to pay a dime. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay the $50. But, I mean, it's literally a really, really, really dangerous intersection. And this has been going on... So, it was before January. I had spoken to a police officer, I believe last summer, when we had somebody went through and took change out of cars, unlocked cars. And I had asked them, I said, could you talk to whoever you have to talk to see if they can do something? And look, they're busy, and I'm sure it slipped his mind. But I've called the Public Works. I'm sure you, Preston McGivney, I guess you forgot my number, but... So, I got a quick question. Sure. Is it our responsibility to cut it down, or is it the county's responsibility to cut it down?
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Can I actually ask Captain Vincent not to come speak to this, because we just discussed this morning?
Vince, come on up. Or if you can talk back there, it's fine, too.
Please come to the microphone.
I don't know how much information you wanted me to give, or I can speak to Mr.
Come on. Give it all.
Ben, come up to the mic. We need you in the microphone.
All right.
He said that. He said that.
We talked before, right? Yeah. He's been really, really responsive.
So we're not going to write you up.
Yep, and I will take onus, because I promise you that every time you reach out to Chris, he reaches out to me.
Yes.
So 100% on that. The only update I truly have is that I will be in court here on August the 29th at 8 a.m. regarding that matter.
Okay.
That is in the hands of the municipal court at this point.
Good.
So you didn't know about it? Okay.
He's not, yeah, he's not.
Oh, he's there,
He's the solicitor, that's all.
So as we discussed on the phone, I try to give everybody that benefit of the doubt.
And I get it.
I know that.
You know, none of us want to be bad guys to a resident, and we even had someone who's friends with her went up and said, and he said it was like she just doesn't care that it's a hazard. So, it's just really bad. I take a ride, come up Sackler Street, hit Bridge Street, and he knows.
I'll ride through.
We've taken all our vehicles through, so.
It's bad.
Our last step, was to go through municipal court and follow that.
I'm sorry, you said this when?
29. Thursday, 8 a.m. 29. Here, okay. Yep.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank sir.
Thank you. Can I ask one other quick question?
Sure.
I hate to take so much time. As a village resident, I was on the petition to not allow them to have chickens.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not allow him to do what?
To re-allow people on small properties to have chickens. But I was reassured that there's going to be a committee that's going to oversee all this. Our neighbor who had chickens last time before that, and they had to get rid of them, does not live on a large enough lot. They built a coop too close to the property line. They have, as of today, what I've seen, 3 chickens and 2 ducks, which are not allowed.
What are they gonna do with the ducks?
They've never applied for a permit. They've never taken a class. They've never paid the money. And they've known about, I think, I just talked to him. But because I know you had sent them a notice, but there it sits. And there's obviously, and there was supposed to be a committee that was going to oversee the chickens. Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there? Isn't there?
So it's not. We had 3 people who have emailed about being on the committee.
Right.
And I think we want 2 more so that we have an odd, 3 is an odd number, but so we have a little bit more, input from people and try to have 5. So we're supposed to vote on that and add these people on the committee on our September meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going through with that. It's just, people have emailed, 3 people have already emailed about being on the committee.
Getting back to, so what's going to happen with the people who didn't put in an application,
Right.
kept the chickens or the ducks, who didn't, who,
So I think that there's fines in place for that, right?
but nobody seems to do anything to let them know.
Vince, are you policing this? I mean, come on.
We're working on it, we are working.
See?
No,
why?
not a problem, not a problem.
Get us, but you're so nice to Vince. He's the one in charge.
And again, the one thing I do acknowledge, they're immigrants. They're really, really nice people, but they come from a culture that I don't think has any idea that their culture is so much. I think they're from Turkey. And I think in Turkey, according to my, sister used to live there, everybody has chickens and everybody has it, but that's there and it's not here. And I don't know if you've ever heard ducks squawk first thing in the morning.
Oh, gee.
They're almost as bad as roosters, so it's not good.
Guess you'll take care of the ducks.
Thanks.
Again, I don't know how much information you want me to give, but.
Give it to us all.
It's in the works.
So, there is that language barrier, and actually, if you believe they're of Turkish descent, a year and a half ago, we hired a fireman of Turkish descent, so I will 100% use him in this.
Absolutely, yes.
But we have about 2/3 of an application that was completed. We are just having, I was out there 2 days ago, and we are having definite interpretation issues. So I'm FaceTiming with what I believe to be the daughter, but I told them to just prepare yourself, because once I have that definitive number on the application, chances are they are below the threshold and will not be able to have the chickens or the ducks per year.
Because their lot's less than 9,000 square feet.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm
Thanks
waiting
so much.
on their application to basically. No, not a problem.
Thanks.
Vince, stay close.
Listen, if there's ducks on my property, I did not buy them. We do have water. Anthony Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. Police chief was here, he disappeared. Police did a fabulous job last night with the National Night Out. Weather was perfect, turnout was great. Some good K-9 demos. Something to consider for next year. I thought it odd that somebody was giving out free hot dogs and then we had a hot dog vendor. That's that guy's business, that's his primary product. We probably should have some type of coordination there to not hinder our vendors from making some money. The other thing, I thought it was kind of disrespectful when I saw political shirts walking around, something that's supposed to be nonpartisan, something that should probably be made aware of to our candidates, not to have people showing up with T-shirts for promoting themselves. Something else off topic, one of my neighbors came to me the other day, and he's like, our community sign's deteriorating. So he's like, would the township consider redoing signs for a lot of the communities? I think it came up in the past for Torrensfield. Like there was a sign at one time, sign no longer exists. I don't know if the money still exists, but there was money from MRP for...
Everybody wants to spend our money.
What?
I'm joking.
No, I'm saying there was money from MRP for community enhancement type projects.
You're right.
I think signage for all the little towns or neighborhoods and stuff like that is representative of the township as a whole. So maybe it's something worth looking at and seeing what signs need refreshing, and maybe we get new signs for a lot of the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Gary Berbering, 138 Winstead. So for public comment, I have two public comment. This caught my eye, and I'm just wanted to run it by the committee to get some feedback. Apparently, OSHA is updating the fire brigade standard. Now, this was a standard that was established back in 1980. And so, Odie, if you want to copy down the site, the docket is OHSA OSHA-2007-2073. You can go to their website and pull it up. But apparently, this is causing a bit of a kerfuffle with just about every fire department in the nation, because apparently the standards that they're proposing are potentially burdensome for the firefighters, the EMTs, and also for volunteer firefighters, volunteer personnel, and also professional firefighters. Burdensome for training purposes, and also potentially there's going to be a cost impact. Now, there was public comment, but that comment period closed on July the 22nd. Now, I did check out the New Jersey League of Municipalities website. Apparently, they were putting together a position. I'm assuming they caucused with all of the municipalities within the state. And so I guess my comment was, well, were we sort of caucused with? And if so, did we get any kind of buy-in on that statement, any kind of feedback, et cetera? I went to the OSHA website. I searched in the docket. I only found 7 instances of comments related to New Jersey, and I did not find anything from the New Jersey League of Municipalities. Now, I could have just botched it, but I'm curious if that comment represented what we in the township would weigh in with on these new proposed regulations. So there is going to be a informal, according to their website, virtual hearing on November the 12th. You can register as a private citizen or as a representative of a group and make a statement, et cetera. So that may be something, we do pay attention to, because apparently there's going to be a fiscal impact. And so we need to look to the budget for next year and kind of factor it in. If these regs are passed, what's that cost going to be, and how's that going to be passed on to the townships? So just wanted to share that observation. And then I've been communicating with Wendy on the issue with solicitors within the township. I know, do you want me to say anything more about that? Not you, Bob.
I mean, he's right there. I'll talk behind his back.
You can comment, go ahead.
Yeah, so on the issue of solicitors, I know we've talked about this before, but this is a little bit oddball. Our definition of solicitors, basically is pretty restrictive in the sense that it only applies if you go door to door, house to house. But yesterday in my development, someone was getting a home improvement, new roof put on, and the contractor actually set up a tent, the kind that you'd see at a festival or a fair, and this was pretty well run. This is fairly well organized. So assuming, what they were doing was kind of inviting passersby to stop at this tent and engage with them, maybe they were giving out literature, brochures, etc. You know what? That's soliciting, except they're not going door to door, they're not going house to house. So I thought maybe if it makes sense, if they're doing that in the neighborhood, maybe it makes sense to possibly amend the definition to, because think about it, you could have a guy stand there in your development wearing a sandwich board, and cars drive up and he hands a piece of paper. He's technically soliciting, but not within the definition of solicitors in our township. So maybe something we want to think about. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bob Thorpe, 222 Olive Street, Rancocas, New Jersey. Preston's very right. Site triangles in the village are horrendous. It's not just that one intersection. And the intersection he's talking about, you'll recognize the trees because those are the pictures I just sent you. So exact ones. But what I really want to do is say something nice, okay? And thank you all very much for discussing that stormwater. It was really nice to see a good discussion and what I think are some reasonable solutions. And I want to say thank you and applaud you all for that. So thank you so much.
Closed for public comment, all in favor? Dates to remember, next township meeting is September 3rd at 7 p.m. Land Development Board meeting is September 4th at 7 p.m. Historic Commission, August 28th at 7 p.m. Recreation Committee meeting, August 14th at 7 p.m. Committee liaison report?
I'll start. So I just wanted to also thank the police department. Chief Ferguson did a nice job and his team organizing National Night Out instead of canceling it completely. So last night we couldn't have asked for any better weather. It was perfect. I got there, right at 6 and already the parking lot was full. So it was great to see everybody out for that. The chickens, I know that we had just seen a couple things come through for that committee, and I am going to volunteer as the committee member to sit in on that committee unless somebody else wants it, but I'll make that a known fact right now. I wouldn't mind getting that up and running. The neighborhood signs that's come up multiple times, we've talked about possibly even forming a committee for that to make sure that all neighborhoods are represented and have new signage. I know that it's come up about Public Works and maintaining, those signs or the cutting of the grass around those. So it's just those little things that would need to be worked out, but I agree. I think that would add a nice touch to our town. And really, that's all I have. I just wanted to, again, thank all of you for coming out and voicing your opinions and letting us know what's going on that we don't know about. So, thank you.
I agree. Last night I was at the police National Night Out, and not just the police, but the fire company and the EMTs were there doing a wonderful job. So I give lots of kudos to them. Lots of people. I didn't realize we had that many little kids in West Hampton. So I hope the schools are ready. And I do agree. I think in the past, we had a policy that anytime West Hampton had some type of event, like the firehouse, open house, or not back to school, but this for the police department, that there was no campaigning. And there was campaigning, and they were explained to them, and they decided they did not want to take their shirts off. So I think that in the future, I know that Craig always, when he has the open house for the fire company, calls all the candidates and tells them that there is no campaigning And, our police chief was new, and I'm sure next year he'll do the same thing. It just is fair to everyone, and West Hampton sponsors it, so West Hampton does not sponsor any candidates. No, there was something else. Oh, Mayor, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the Rancocas Community Center. Did you want to talk of what you've been talking about to the residents of Rancocas, of using it as a rec center or not?
No.
Okay. He doesn't want to talk about it. Thank you. That's it.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out today. It was a good discussion on the stormwater. Thank you for all of your input. I think we got an ordinance that satisfies most people. I think the chief and his team did an amazing job with National Night Out yesterday. I, like Janie, were there at 6, and the parking lot was full. It was great to see all of you out there. Finally, I'll solicit one more time, Gary. We are accepting applications for the Chicken Committee, Economic Development, and the Sign Committee. So if you live in a development and want to represent your town, please let Administrator Gibson know so we could put you on and inform that. But yes, there are several towns needing signs, and it'd be nice to represent the aura of that neighborhood, the character of that neighborhood with individual signs instead of, uniform signs throughout the town. So, or whatever the committee decides, the sign committee, that is. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Made some notes. I'll try to make it quick. One, speaking of trees, I talked to a resident about trees when we talk about the trees over at the village and how, some of them are going to be cut down. So we talked about inputting some trees or what that would look like, right, to create a sound barrier. I was, one of the people there when they were cutting trees down or talk about cutting trees down for PSE&G. And, listening to the cars go by us, but the residents were complaining about not having a sound barrier. And, we're going to cut, if they're going to cut more down, and we talked about there's some that are dead that are being cut down, then we would need to look to replace them. I would ask that we have an open forum, a conversation about what trees to put in. And Chris, if you could do some research for us. One of the things that I would move to do is that, we talk about the community redevelopment fund. There's probably, 220,000, 230, somewhere in there. And we've been pretty responsible with that, but I think if we look at using some of those funds, maybe up to $10,000 to put trees there as a sound barrier. I mean, when you talk about people living in town, you want them to be there and live comfortably. And if I'm not mistaken, Committeewoman Berkeley, that would affect you directly as far as helping the sound barrier. So I think that would be helpful. Signs. So yes, we've said a million times over that we'd be willing to talk about and have open format about what the signs are. So I spoke to a resident on 425. They sent me a picture of how back in the day the Torranceville sign was, and that we need to buy a Torranceville sign. And I said respectfully, if we're going to buy a sign, then we should buy signs for every development. It can't just be Torranceville. Everyone is a taxpayer, and then what will happen is we'll buy a sign for Torranceville, and then, someone will say, where's my sign? Where's my sign? So that person, a responsible person, said, all right, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get you some numbers, and then I'll bring it up and we can talk about it. So that was on May 25th. I just looked up on my phone. So listen, obviously maybe creating a committee is a better format to do that. And what I said to that person was, some of that money is directed to fixing up the American Legion. A commitment from being elected. There was people who have been in the American Legion, especially for the Veterans Breakfast, that have talked about how poorly the house is conditioned. So they have a grant. I think the grant's $20,000. We can't fix anything until the grant goes through, because it may throw off the grant, right? I think if anybody goes there, there was a deep divot into the porch. There's been some issues with, their gutters, the inside, there's some issues. If you just want to walk through, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to show you guys. So what I said to that resident, I said, I feel like we want to get a decent amount of bang for our buck, right? Like getting a bunch of trees for $10,000, right? And then fixing that up and then getting signs, but we don't want to spend $50,000 on signs. Like that takes a huge chunk of the money that maybe people care about signs, maybe people don't. We'd rather be able to make sure we do something with a community redevelopment fund that everyone can profit off of, or that everyone can enjoy. And that was that conversation, and that's what the vision is, right? Like, we don't know what that's going to cost, but we think that's fair for our veterans. The trees, $10,000, that's something that, you had a decent amount of residents that were out that were upset and complaining. And to be honest with you, when you talked about going along this corridor, this is the main attraction to our town, that we want everyone to know how special we are and how much, we take care of our town. Next. Well, let me see your pen. I have a question for you. All right. So next, National Night Out. I thought National Night Out was fantastic. I think that the best thing that we did, not that we did it on purpose, was move the night, because no one else had anything else to do, and everybody was able to come out and enjoy each other's company. They gave out pretzels, they gave out hot dogs, hamburgers, and there were vendors there as well. When we're talking about the hot dogs being given out versus the hot dogs being purchased, I guess they could be more responsible. I think that Recovery donated the hot dogs and hamburgers, so we got what we got from them. So then we had to be, we're gonna use what we use. But I don't know how much that affected the hot dog person, but I think that is something to take a look at and see. Maybe he can change what he's gonna do, because if we get free hot dogs, again, I think that the residents deserve to get the free hot dogs before they pay for the hot dogs. I know you're not saying that. I know that's not what you're saying, but I think that the communication could be better, right?
He may have opted not to.
Right.
And somebody else would have came in and delivered.
Correct. I don't disagree. I think that the communication has to be better, but I don't know the time frame in which they found out what they were getting from Recovery. Sometimes when people are donating, they really don't tell you what they're going to give you. You kind of get what they have that is getting ready to run out or whatever. You know how it is. Why I said no, I didn't want to discuss the Rancocas Village Firehouse is because as a group, we haven't been able to talk about that. Jamie doesn't know about the conversation that we have at the Rancocas Firehouse, so I think it would be unfair to put her in that position when we didn't have an open dialogue and there's no change in what we're going to do. What we talked about was, renting that out to the whole community, right? And utilizing that, especially if we do some different firehouses, et cetera. Like if we have 2 different firehouses there, that community center is rented out. The one in Spring Meadows is rented out every day, all week long. And if that's no longer available, then what are we going to do? So it was just really like a meeting to kind of see what what options were available. But that was that. As far as people wearing T-shirts, so I'm not up for election. I guess I do have a piece of.
I can't understand you. What did you say?
I was whispering so you didn't hear me. But, so what I saw was there was a lot of kids that had T-shirts on. If somebody didn't like it, so my issue was this. I had a sheriff's officer pull me to the side, and not Committeeman Carr, but somebody else, and they talked about that. A kid came up to them and asked about, somebody told them they can't wear this T-shirt, and, why can't I wear this T-shirt, et cetera, et cetera. And the sheriff officer said, you can wear whatever you want. People can't tell you what not to wear. You're a kid. I would say this. There's a lot of people who have kids in the room, and some of us, the kids are a little bit older, and I don't know that any of us appreciate if an adult approaches a kid about what they're wearing. What I wish is that what I feel like what will be responsible is is to have a conversation with the parents and say, I don't think that, maybe it's not appropriate, et cetera, et cetera. But those kids went to the sheriff's officer, they went to their parents. Kids now are very, they know social media, they went on social media and looked it up. So, those are the things going forward. I know I wouldn't appreciate an adult talking to my kid about what they have on, because a lot of times, again, the kids are they're wearing what they picked up. So, that part I wish would have been handled differently, but again, it is what it is. Again, I think we already discussed in detail about Local 172. We don't have to use Local 172, but if they're gonna give us the best work and the best bang for our buck, then I think that we create ourselves options as a town. And listen, I've done a lot of research on this town. We're A-rated town, right? You got A+, A-, B+, and if you put us up against any of the towns in our area, we have a better score than them, except for we're pretty close or even with Burlington Township. When you're talking about our taxes and what we pay, they rank the big towns, but they don't have us ranked in the big towns. But when you look at the small towns and you break it down, you can go on the 2004 town rankings, and you look at what our average tax rate is, we're the third lowest of anybody that's on that page of what we pay as a town. We've never not given the residents every bit of service that they've always had. We haven't taken any service away. We continue to make sure that we spend responsibly and that we're able to continue to offer everyone the services that they're needed. Lastly, and certainly not least, I think the average value of homes on that same ranking that ranks us at A-town, in small towns, we're one of the higher homes as far as housing values. I think that someone just put a video up that if you put your home on the market, it'll sell in approximately 18 days. So when I say these things, I say, I appreciate that we're talking about the trees and that we just try to get it right for the residents, because that is very important. I appreciate everyone coming out and us talking about all these things to just try to get it right, to make everybody happy, or many people as we possibly can. Or I think a lot of times people just appreciate being heard. I appreciate you, sir, for coming out and bringing the bushes to light, right? And I appreciate that as much that, Lieutenant Knott knows what's going on and that he's in front of it and trying to repair it, right? So, with that being said, thank you all. I appreciate everyone coming out. I appreciate you listening. And listen, I appreciate everything we've done for West Hampton. With that being said,
Mayor?
we're going to go.
I'd like to respond. I talked to the father of a candidate who provided the girls with that shirt, who had the candidate's name on it and told people to vote for that person. It was not a shirt that the kids went out to TJ Maxx and bought themselves. It was a shirt that was provided by the candidate, and it didn't have paid for by like it should, but it was not appropriate. If you're going to do that, then you need to tell all candidates that they can do their candidate stuff at West Hampton. We've never allowed it before. It wasn't something that the kids could choose themselves.
Somebody's got their hand up. So can I just say one other thing? Who did you talk to first, the parent or the kids?
The oldest kid I saw.
So you addressed that's exactly what I said. There's no one here in this room who has kids that would be happy with you addressing their kid before you address them.
I wasn't very happy myself.
So that doesn't mean that you take it out on people's kids.
I also spoke to the police chief.
And what did the police chief say?
He was going to go talk to you.
I haven't had a word. Why would he talk to me? I'm not even running.
I'm telling you, he told me he was going to go talk to you.
I haven't heard from the police chief. So I don't know what we're spending time on, but come on. Ms. Gale, I'm sorry.
May I approach? Committee, thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Can you say your name?
Gail
please?
Maddox, Canteen 472, West Country Club Drive, West Hampton. Last night was a wonderful night. I've been participating in National Night Out every year for the past 20 years. I'm a member of the rec committee and have been participating. Those children are children that have volunteered for the rec committee. They have done Easter egg hunts, they have fed with the pizza parties, and have done all of those things. No one said that anyone couldn't wear the shirt. If I was notified that the shirts could not be worn, I wouldn't have worn the shirts.
I agree.
That's not the problem. The problem is children were approached and told what they couldn't do without addressing the parent. I would have appreciated if you would have spoken to me. If you would have spoken to me, I would have appreciated that. But you addressing children, having those children come up to me upset, saying they had to take off their shirts, that was the problem, without any reason for doing that. I didn't appreciate that, their parents didn't appreciate that, and now I have a bunch of kids that I normally get to volunteer, not willing to volunteer with the rec department anymore, because their feelings were hurt. They asked the police chief, they asked the police guys, what's the problem? Why can't I wear this? There was no answer. That's all I'd like to say. If I was notified, or if they were notified that that was something that was incorrect, you said it earlier. No one notified anyone that they couldn't do that.
That's correct.
So, what was the problem? It's the approach. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You don't approach young kids telling them what they can't do and go and take those shirts off. That was inappropriate to do that. I wouldn't treat anyone else's kids like that. And I don't expect you as the township committee to treat children of West Hampton like that.
Thank you. So, Resolution 013-2024, resolution authorizing the Township Committee and supporting staff to meet in private session and authorizing the exclusion of the public from that portion of the meeting dealing with specific issues requiring non-public discussion, attorney-client privilege personnel. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night.
Oh, we got a silence.